Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Christy. Merry Christmas Eve. I hope you're all doing well and staying safe and warm. I know it's cold pretty much everywhere. It is a whopping 14 degrees here right now, which is warmer than yesterday, but it is still bitter cold. The wind chill is ridiculous and the wind is awful. I'm recording this today instead of going live for a few reasons. First of all, the electric went out earlier this morning. The power went off, so I didn't want to take a chance on being live and losing power. And second, there's kind of a lot to go over, and I want to just kind of power through it and not have, a live that goes on for several hours, because I know those are no fun to try to go back and watch on the replay. So hopefully this will do. If you were wanting a live and wanted to do a super sticker or super chat, I appreciate it. And if you feel the need or the desire, you can always leave a super thanks or send me a Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal, but it is not necessary ever. So don't think that. So there isn't a lot new in Idaho, and I haven't done a video about it in a couple of days because there's really nothing new and exciting to come on and report. But a few things are happening kind of on the fringes of the case that I wanted to talk about and bring to you. And a little bit of it is kind of a review or a refresher of where we're at and what we still don't know. So hopefully you'll enjoy it. It'll be something that you find interesting, valuable, whatever. Thank you everybody for sending me your messages yesterday. It helped. It made me feel like what I'm doing does matter, and your support for me is amazing, and I appreciate it. It was kind of like every time I read a message was like a little tiny Christmas present, just kind of making me feel like, the reason I started my channel was for the right reasons, and I can keep doing what I'm doing, and it's fine. So thank you all for that. And leave me a comment. Let me know where you're watching from and what your weather is like, because I'm very interested. I've got, one kid in California and one in Massachusetts, and we've got family and friends, kind of scattered all over the United States, and it's crazy, the weather everywhere right now. So let me know where you're at and what it's doing in your neighborhood. I'm still cold. As you can see, I've got my hood up today, and I got my big, thick, fuzzy socks on, but it's a little better than yesterday. So I want to start off with the investigation itself. Now, there has been a lot of criticism for the lead investigator from the Moscow PD because he has only been on the force for 2 years. He was a prior Army vet. He served in Afghanistan. He was part of the 82nd Airborne. He did great at the police academy. He got Rookie of the Year, I guess is what they call it. But he's gotten several awards, and He's well respected by his peers. They like his style. They like what he brings to the department. And I was kind of thinking it over last night, and it's not really fair to this guy that we're not giving him a chance, right? And y'all know I love football. So I've kind of broken it down and made a comparison of the investigation to football. And hopefully my analogies will make sense to you of why I'm saying what I'm saying about how it's going. So, like football, it's a team effort, right? We've got the Moscow PD, but we also have the Idaho State Police, and we have the FBI. And it is technically Moscow's investigation because they are the local agency. It's their jurisdiction. So they are heading up the investigation. But they're getting all this help. There's, I want to say, 60 FBI agents right now working the case, along with the Idaho State Police and the Moscow Police. So we can't look at it like this guy doesn't have any experience, because he's one guy. He's one member of a big team. So I kind of wrote some notes down here of what I wanted to say. So when a football team loses, the quarterback gets blamed most of the time. It's not always fair. What if the quarterback threw beautiful passes for the whole game, but his receivers were having a bad day? They sucked. They couldn't, they're butterfingers. They can't catch a ball to save their life, or they catch the ball and they fumble. That's not on the quarterback. He did his job. He threw the beautiful pass, but he's going to get the blame, usually, in the media. Now, me, I am an equal opportunity blamer. And you can ask my family. When I'm watching a football game, I equally cuss out whoever happens to be screwing up whatever play. I blame whoever made the mistake. But a lot of times when you watch, like, the sports on the news or highlights or whatever, a lot of the time the quarterback shoulders the blame, because I don't like it, but the quarterback is usually like the face of the franchise, right? And kind of the captain of the team, the star of the team, and he carries a lot of the burden, but it's not always fair. So in this case, our lead investigator with 2 years experience, he's the quarterback, right? He's kind of leading the team, but he's not doing it alone. He has to rely on these other people to do their part as well. So what if, to kind of build on that, let's say the offense plays perfect. The quarterback and their receivers, they're on fire. They're doing great. They're getting it down the field. They're scoring touchdowns. But that day, the defense sucks. And they're just letting the other team score. And we end up losing. Again, not the quarterback's fault. They did their job. It was the defense's fault. So it's not really fair to blame one agency, or in this case, one guy, because we're not seeing the progress we want to see. It's not just on him. So let's see, team effort. You cannot necessarily pin the loss on one person. Sometimes you can. Definitely sometimes you can. But most often, a win or a loss is a team effort. To blame one person, like, one person can be having a bad day. One person can be having a bad day. And usually the rest of the team kind of picks up the slack. And you can still manage a win. Like, let's say we get down the field, we're in the red zone, but we can't punch it in for a touchdown. We bring out the field goal kicker, and he kicks a field goal, and no, we didn't get 7, but we got 3. So, it's still not always one person's fault, right? It's not the quarterback's fault necessarily that we didn't get a touchdown. Now, if the quarterback is throwing horrible all day and like their receivers are out there doing everything they can to get the ball and it's just not working out, then yeah, it's probably the quarterback's fault. You know, I'm not saying there isn't a time where one person can't bring down the whole team. I am a Dallas Cowboys fan. I know better than anybody. One person can cost you a game easily. And we'll kind of get into that a little more later. But, let's see. And this, my husband's going to recognize this example. The media likes to praise quarterbacks. Like, for a loss, they like to blame them. But if they win, they really like to praise the quarterback, right? That's all we hear about. But the quarterback doesn't throw the ball, run down the field and catch the ball, and run it in for the touchdown, and then come back out and kick the field goal. Or the point after, sorry. Right? He didn't do it all by himself. It was a team effort. So you can praise him all you want, but he couldn't have done it alone. And he's offense, right? We can't credit him for the defense. What if defense is the reason you won the game? You can't be like, oh, he had such a great game, and then just ignore what a great job the defense did. So, you know, if this investigation works out and they solve it, you know, is everybody going to flip the script and start praising this guy? Like, oh, he was the best one to lead this investigation. Maybe. But it wasn't just him. If it gets solved, if it doesn't get solved, it's not just him. It's a big, big team of people. And we need to remember that. Like, don't bash this guy. Don't harp on this guy. Look at the team as a whole. How is the entire investigative team doing? Not just the one guy. Like, when I talk about the Cowboys, I'm talking about how well my team is doing, not how well Dak Prescott's doing. Dak Prescott could be having a great season, and the team still sucks. It happens a lot. Okay. So as far as a rookie being in charge. So when the NFL draft comes around, teams get super excited, right? Because it's our chance to draft a rookie out of college that we can pin our hopes on for a better season. You know, whoever did the worst in the prior season gets to pick first in the draft. And they're looking to fill the holes of where their team was weakest in the season before. And a lot of times, quarterbacks go first. We see that a lot. You had a bad season. You were bottom of the barrel. It was the quarterback's fault. Let's bring in a new quarterback. Let's bring in a rookie. So, let's see. Sorry. All right, so sometimes the quarterbacks go first, and sometimes they're drafted as the backup quarterback, right? But sometimes they're drafted as the starter. Sometimes a team is like, I'm done with the veteran quarterback. We're going to bring in new blood. You know, this kid proved himself in college, and he's going to save the team. Sometimes they bring him in as the backup. And your backup is super important. If your star quarterback goes down, if he gets injured, and you have to bring in the second string, and that guy isn't good, that could cost you your whole season. Again, I'm a Dallas fan. I've seen it happen. Now this year, Dak got hurt, and we pulled in our second string, and we're all like, great, we're done. Our second string quarterback did great. He did great. We didn't lose with this guy. And now we're in a playoff berth. So sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. But what if they pull this rookie investigator off and they put somebody in his place and the backup is worse than this guy? What if he sends the investigation backwards? Because the lead guy, he's out there. He's practicing with the team. He's gained their respect. He's gained their loyalty. He's gained their trust. They click. They work well together. And it sounds like this investigator has the respect of his peers, and they trust him, they're loyal to him, and they work well together. And sometimes when the second string guy comes in, the team's kind of hesitant, like they know this guy isn't as good as the lead guy, and they don't click because the trust isn't there. The faith in his gameplay isn't there. They want to respect this guy. They want to play with this guy. They want to win, but the chemistry's off. So what if the guy they replace the rookie investigator with comes in and maybe he doesn't work as well with the rest of the team? Maybe they don't respect him as much. Maybe they don't like his style as much. That could actually end up hurting the investigation instead of helping it. So when you're talking about replacing somebody, you've always got to wonder if your backup could end up hurting you in the long run instead of helping you get to where you were on the road to getting to. Okay. And then I wrote down, my husband will recognize this as well. Sometimes the quarterback is drafted to start. He's proven himself in college. Sometimes that transfers to the NFL and sometimes it doesn't. And my examples are Tim Tebow and Peyton Manning. Now, I was never a Tebow fan. Don't come at me. But he was hailed as God's gift to football when he was in college. And when he was drafted into the NFL, it was a nightmare. He didn't accomplish anything. He's gone. I don't even know where he is, what he's doing these days, but he's not playing. And Peyton Manning was amazing in college and amazing in the NFL. So sometimes you can bring in a rookie and that prior experience, like that guy's experience working in Afghanistan with the Army. He's really good at community policing. Well, part of being in Afghanistan, he would have been out building relationships in the villages, trying to get in good with the elders and things like that. And he's good at working as a team. Tebow, he was used to being the star. He's the one that I used to tell my husband, he doesn't throw the ball, run down there, catch it, run it in for a touchdown, kick the point after, and then go play defense. It's not Tebow, it was the team. So experience isn't always better. Just because he has maybe not technically law enforcement experience other than the 2 years on the force doesn't make him a bad investigator overall. It doesn't. And just because Tim Tebow was a great football player in college, it didn't make him a great football player in the NFL. So we have to remember that. looks can be deceiving sometimes. You have to give the guy a chance. We, the Cowboys, drafted Micah Parsons, and he got Rookie of the Year his first season, and he's mind-blowing. Like, his gameplay is just on another level, and he continues to be a powerhouse for us. He is one of the key players on our team, and it worked out well for us to take our chance on that rookie and put him in that weak spot and let him have his chance. Give him his chance. Give him his shot. And we watched him go from good to great. And it could happen for this guy. He may fall flat on his face. He may do an awful job. He may be Tim Tebow. But he could be Micah Parsons. Maybe he just needs a shot. We don't know. And then as far as experience doesn't always mean better. This is a personal rant from me about football again, but this time it's about OU. So we had a coach named Lincoln Riley, and he was great. Our teams were amazing under Lincoln Riley. He came after Bob Stoops, who was arguably one of the best coaches we've ever had. And Lincoln Riley left last season. At the end of the season, he took a job at USC. And I was mad. I was so mad. And along with him, our amazing quarterback went with him to USC. And we lost a lot of other really good players. And I was so mad. So OU brings in this guy named Brent Venables. And he's from Clemson. And they're ramming it down our throats like, he's so good. He's going to be this amazing coach. He's got all this experience. Blah, 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 blah. You know, he's going to do great things at OU. Okay, fine. I'll give the guy a shot. I mean, what choice have I got, right? All that experience that he brought with him led to one of the worst seasons of football I have sat through in a long time. We went unranked. We lost games that we haven't lost in decades. We somehow managed to get a spot in the Cheez-It Bowl. Wow, that's exciting, right? And I would go on rants on social media about this guy because I was just like, you're ruining the team. You're ruining the team. And people would come at me and be like, oh, you have to give him a chance. You know, it's only his first season with the team and blah, blah, blah. And I would turn it around and throw it back in their faces because meanwhile, while we're looking like a bag of ass, Lincoln Riley's at USC. And it's his first season with them too, right? Well, they're going to the Cotton Bowl. And our great quarterback that went to USC with him, he won the Heisman. Which, you know, in hindsight, it was probably smart that he followed Lincoln Riley because had he stayed at OU, he'd be going to the Cheez-It Bowl and wouldn't have the Heisman. But what I'm trying to say here is, you know, Lincoln Riley took all of his experience and he went to USC and they did great things. Brent Venables comes in with all this fanfare about how great he's going to be and all his experience, and I'm disgusted. I'm hoping for better things next season, but he doesn't fit. He's not what Oklahoma football is. I don't know how to explain it. It's not working. It was a huge fail. But I'm assuming he'll be back next year and maybe it'll be better. But the point of all this is we can't say, let's bring in this investigator who has X amount of years of experience because he'll do better. Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. You know, some of these guys that have been on the force for a long time are just like punching in and punching out and waiting for the day they can retire. You know, the new guy, he might have a lot of passion and he really wants to like make his mark and he wants to solve this because he knows this is going to be a big moment in his career going forward. Dude with experience might just kind of be like, yeah, let's just get through it, but doesn't have that passion and that desire and that, you know, just eat, drink, sleep this case. You know what I mean? So we can't, you know, bank on just because some guy's been here for maybe 15 years that he's going to come in and magically solve this when the guy with 2 years experience hasn't solved it yet. We don't know. We don't know. So let's kind of give this guy some grace and let's just see like what he can do. And coaching and mentors, they're important, right? So you can kind of look at the Idaho State Police and the FBI like coaches, like mentors. They're there to help, right? They're there to make him better. And if he takes that in and learns from it and takes their suggestions, then it's a great team. They're there to assist. Like I said, it's not all him. We've got all these other players working on the case in different capacities as well. And we've got people like the FBI, you know, the BAU was there, people that have loads of experience with these kind of cases, and they're there to mentor and coach him and assist in any way they can. And to me, that's a good thing. So a lot of people have been asking the question, why doesn't the FBI just take over? Well, unlike TV, the FBI can't just come in and like wield their power and take over a case. If it's a state or local investigation, there's criteria that have to be met before the FBI can come in and just take over. For example, if there was a serial killer and a state or local law enforcement agency couldn't handle it, they couldn't handle the investigation, the FBI could take over, but they'd have to get approval from the Department of Justice first. But in a situation like that, it could happen, but we're not there yet. In Idaho, we don't know if it's a serial killer. And if the FBI had evidence that the killer also crossed state lines, then the FBI could take jurisdiction. But apparently we're not there yet either in Idaho. We don't know if the killer crossed state lines or not. So basically, the FBI can assert control as the lead investigative agency when they have jurisdiction over a case. And here, they do not have jurisdiction. They can't just go in and assert control because there's no federal nexus to the case yet. And what I mean by that is there's no evidence the killer crossed state lines. There's nothing to indicate that an abduction or anything involving children happened with this case. Those are the kind of things that could rise to the level of the FBI taking over the case. And there's none of it here as of right now. So it doesn't mean that the FBI are not doing a lot of the work. It doesn't mean that just because they're not technically leading the investigation doesn't mean that they are not doing an awful lot in the investigation. And we've seen it, right? How many times have we seen the FBI out there collecting evidence, taking pictures, the BAU walking around? They are running the tip line now. So they're managing all the tips and leads that come in. You know, they're doing a lot. They're doing interviews. So just because they're not the lead doesn't mean that they're sitting there not doing anything. They absolutely are, and we've all seen it. Okay, so enough of the football investigation. Now we're going to talk about something that is just odd. So there's a TikToker out there, and she's a tarot card reader, and she is being sued for libel in this case. And I knew it was going to happen. My best friend Steph sent me one of her TikToks one night, and she's like, start here and watch up until her latest video. And y'all, it was like an hour and a half or more. And TikToks are short, right? I mean, there is a lot. And now I'm friends with tarot card readers. I watch tarot card readers. I watch some of the spirit box people. Do I always believe it? No. Do I sometimes think that they might hit on something? Yes. But generally the people that I'm watching aren't like specific. They're not coming out naming people saying, this is the killer. You know, they're talking about like characteristics or events surrounding the murder, or, you know, things like that. Just kind of in generalities, you know, just to kind of get you thinking about maybe this, what if that, you know, kind of thing. Not this girl. Not this girl. So her name is Ashley Gilliard, I think is how you pronounce it. On TikTok, she goes by Ashley is in the Book of Life, I think is what it's called. And she promotes herself on Amazon and TikTok as an internet sleuth that solves high-profile unsolved murders by consulting tarot cards and performing other readings to obtain info about the murders. And there is a 12-page complaint, and you can get it online. It is Scofield versus Gilliard, I believe. If you Google TikTok libel suit Idaho murders, it'll come up and you can read through it. But I'm going to read part of it to you here. In the complaint filed by University of Idaho professor Rebecca Scofield, it states that the defendant, Ashley Gilliard, decided to use the community's pain for her online self-promotion. She has posted many videos on TikTok falsely stating that the plaintiff, Rebecca Scofield, participated in the murders because she was romantically involved with one of the victims. Gilliard's statements are false. Professor Scofield did not participate in the murders, and she had never met any of the victims, let alone entered a romantic relationship with them. Gilliard's videos have been viewed millions of times, amplifying Gilliard's online persona at the expense of Professor Scofield's reputation. Professor Scofield now sues Gilliard for defamation. So, basically, at the beginning of the videos, she's not real specific. And then something comes to her that it was a history teacher. And she looks into the history professors at the University of Idaho, and she does a reading on all of them. And apparently, in these readings, she discovers that Rebecca Scofield worked with Jack D to have these murders done. Because apparently, she was in a romantic relationship with Kaylee. And she was going to help Jack revive his dream of playing tennis for the University of Idaho if he would do these murders for her. And she only wanted Kaylee and Maddie murdered because she thought there was something going on between Kaylee and Maddie, and I guess she was jealous or something. And then Ethan and Xana, you know, they were there, they were witnesses, so, you know, she was willing to take them out too or whatever. And I guess she was sitting in the white Hyundai Elantra watching to make sure Jack did it, and just on and on and on. And she has videos where she details what happened, their final moments, stuff about the surviving roommates, what's been happening after, like with Jack and Rebecca, and all this stuff. And it was just wow. And I know we go down these rabbit holes, right? But this one was so far out of left field. And she put this professor's picture up and, you know, talked about the department she chairs and books she's written and things like that. And she's adamant about it being her. You know, she knows it's her. And all I could think was, when I got to the videos about what happened with the murders and like their final moments and things, God forbid if the parents watched that or heard that. It's awful. I've got a few of her videos here to just kind of give you an idea of her. None of those where she's going through any of the details, but she claims to have solved the murders of musician Kirshnik Kari Ball, also known as Takeoff, Shanquella Robinson, Tiffany Valiente, Kevin Samuels, and the Idaho murders. She was sent 2 cease and desist orders and ended up making videos about it. She made 20 plus videos after that. And she has videos up today, and those are some that I'm going to show you. Scofield and her husband were in Portland, Oregon at the time of the murders. So the first one I'm going to show you was before the suit was filed, and people were saying in her comments, like, you're going to get sued for defamation. And this is her response to why that can't happen.
This is for those of you talking about defamation lawsuits that don't apply to me. Long story short, the plaintiff, Rebecca Scofield, would have to provide convincing evidence of a defamatory statement's falsity in order to prove defamation. Rebecca Scofield does not have substantial evidence that she did not kill the 4 University of Idaho students. 1, because they don't have a murderer. 2, she hasn't been investigated and substantially investigated and cleared by the Moscow Police Department or the FBI. She would need both of those things, a different murderer, to be investigated thoroughly by Moscow Police Department or the FBI, and to get a statement from them saying that she isn't the killer, which they're not going to do that because they don't know who the killer is yet. Well, they haven't made it public yet. She does not have proof that what I'm saying is false. She does not have a case right now. She will never have the case because she's going to be caught.
Sorry. So that gives you an idea of her mindset. And then she got, I don't know, a vision or a message or whatever she gets, and she started talking that Jack and Rebecca were going to do this again. They were going to kill somebody else, and apparently it came to her that she was going to be the target.
That Rebecca Scofield and Jack Tebow was planning another attack on someone. And so it did seem like, I'm like, are they trying to attack me? Was the question. And I think it was a plan to hurt me, because I had a dream and it was them two speaking, and they were like, she was like, we're going to have to kill her. But of course, I'm not worried about anything like that, because stay ready, you don't have to get ready. But here's my issue. The cards depicted the person that they were going to attack as a pregnant woman. So now I'm sitting here like, do I need to take a pregnancy test?
So this is like all fun and games to her. Now, this is after this is today. This is in the last 24 hours since she's found out about the suit against her. And here she's going to tell you why she is excited by it.
I haven't been served yet, but I'm actually gleaming with excitement. I am going to immediately start planning, because I cannot wait to present my ideas in court regarding Rebecca Scofield and her role in the murder of the 4 University of Idaho students. How she planned it, how it was her initial idea, how she hired Jack Tebow, how she enticed him and energized him and got him ready to kill his own best friend. Since they have the inability to understand it, I'm glad it can be me.
Okay. And here is a video of her basically talking about she's been up against these big bad people before, and this professor's going to regret doing this.
People just don't get it. Like, I've been against people, big and small, corporations and giants and systemic policies and racism, and won. They all regret coming against me. All of them. Now Rebecca is going to be added to that list of regretful people.
And the last one I'm going to show you is the latest as of me recording this. It's 2:29 p.m. Central. This was the latest one that she had up on TickTock.
Reading that I did on his arrest and her arrest, 2 totally different readings. It looks like he will be put to justice way before she does. They will be slow in arresting her. She's going to first go to another job. She's going to leave her current job and start writing. She's going to focus on her writing, and she's going to isolate herself. So she's going to leave. That's after she backstabs the killer. She's not going to live up to her promises for him. I mean, she can't. So it's a change of plans. That's when she's going to get out of Dodge. She'll be isolated in some like cabin or a house somewhere. She's going to focus on her writing, her books. She's going to get a lawyer, but she's still going to lose her case. She's going to go to jail while her trial is pending. The final verdict will reveal that she's guilty and that she wasn't the person that everybody thought she was. See the zombie? It may take a while for this all to happen.
So there you go. Let me know what you think about all that. I mean, it'd be crazy if she was right, but wow. The next thing I just wanted to kind of touch on is this idea of tourism around crime. Apparently, people have been driving to Moscow from like Ohio, you know, like people are driving like across the country to go to the house. And on one hand, I kind of get it, not driving that far, but you know, if I was somewhere and something significant happened as a true crimer, would I go? Probably. Like, if I had been where Kylie Rodney was, I probably would have went out to Prosser and, you know, left flowers or something. You know, I can kind of see that. But to basically take a trip, like a vacation. You know, like most people plan to go to, like, I don't know, an amusement park, Disney World, whatever. To plan a vacation to go to Moscow to see the house where these murders happened, to me is kind of odd. But apparently it's a big industry. Like, it brings in a lot of money. We saw it with the Kaylee Anthony case when people were coming from all over and hanging out outside of the Laundrie's house, which I kind of got that too, because they wanted answers from the Laundries, right? But it's just kind of bizarre to me. And I was just kind of wondering what you think about it. Like, this time of year, like I said, we're not equipped for this kind of weather down here. They're literally telling people to stay off the roads today if you don't have to be out. We had fatalities yesterday. People getting taken to the hospital for exposure, and tow trucks are overwhelmed with the number of wrecks they're having to clean up and things like that. So to imagine planning a trip to Moscow, Idaho to go look at a house, I can't wrap my mind around it. But apparently it's big business and it's happening. Somebody, the lady that came from Ohio, she brought a plant and set it out there by that rock, you know, that's been kind of the memorial for them. But then she turns to the journalists that are there and she's like, "I'm so sorry for your loss." And the journalists are like, "It wasn't our loss. You know, we're not the families." So, I don't know, just a little weird. So let's go over now, the cleared and like what we know kind of thing. So the two surviving roommates, who are Dylan and Bethany, have been cleared. And the male in the grub truck video. Now, they're not specific, right? They haven't said which male. And there's a lot of males in that video, right? We've watched it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go back. I have a whole playlist on this case. They're not specific which male, but it's assumed to mean Jack S. So he's been cleared. The private party driver who took Kaylee and Maddie home that night. Again, this person's not named. We don't know who they are. They're cleared, but I guess what I'm getting at is, if we don't have a name, all of these multitude of people that we and everybody else are speculating about could be one of those people that are technically cleared, right? The male that Kaylee and Maddie called numerous times during the early morning hours of November 13th. Again, it's not specified by name, but the only male that we've heard they called was Jack D. So we assume they mean Jack D has been cleared. Any individual at the residence when 911 was called. Again, no names given. We don't know who was there. We have no idea who was there. The individual on the lease who moved out before school started and was not present at the time of the incident. That's easy enough to find out who that is. The male or his friend who was thought to be a possible stalker and followed Kaylee into the parking lot of a local business in October of 2021. Again, no names given. We don't know who that guy or his friend are. Things that they came out and said weren't related. The skinned dog. The dead coyotes on Greek Row. You know, there had been coyotes put on, I believe, both the sororities the girls were in, and maybe one other. The Washington and Oregon murders that occurred also on the 13th of the month, that we talked about in one of my previous videos. They said not related. And the latest is the Hyundai Elantra that was found in Eugene, Oregon. So let's talk about that Elantra. I did not come on here with that information. While I thought it could be significant, I mean, they found the car that we've all been looking for, right? It's the right year, it's the right color. It doesn't have plates. It's been wrecked, it's been abandoned. And I thought maybe. But then I watch and I'm, looking for updates and stuff, and people start posting, it's still there. It's still there. It hasn't been towed. It hasn't been impounded. People were going up and looking inside it, taking pictures of the VIN number and things like that. And all I could think was, holy shit, if this is the car, if this happens to be related in some way, everything's contaminated. It's been sitting out there, not being watched. People are walking up, looking inside it, taking pictures, touching the car, all this stuff. I was like, oh, damn. And so people got the VIN number, and of course they start running it. And it comes out on social media that it traced back to an LLC, and the home where the murders happened, it's owned by an LLC, and apparently this Elantra the car was registered to that LLC that owns the house. And everybody started saying, oh my God, it's the owner of the house and it's his son. Like, it was the son's car. And then I started hearing, oh, the son and Kaylee had a fight about mail. Well, then I remembered Steve Gonsalves said that they had to give permission to law enforcement at some point to do something, to look into something that had to do with mail. And I was like, maybe that's why everybody's getting excited, because law enforcement was looking at mail, and apparently these two fought about mail. I don't know. Well, that all got debunked. Apparently, the car is owned by a female in Colorado, and she has been contacted and interviewed by the police. She doesn't have any connection to the property in Idaho or the victims or anything. There was a big deal made out of, I think it was Maddie, maybe, was born in Eugene where the car was found, and there were a lot of things, that pointed like, wow, maybe. And, when it came back that, it was registered to that LLC, like I said, it was like, oh, damn. And I just kept thinking, shit, if it happened to be owned by the owner of the property, and it was his son's car, and there was this conflict, and then the damn car had been sitting there for hours, days, whatever, without anybody watching it, people going up, looking in it, touching it, taking pictures, how much evidence could have been compromised. But ends up, it's not related. So people are wondering, could the white Hyundai Elantra be a red herring? And I thought about it, because when the information came out, it was kind of around the same time they started really cracking down on social media people harassing people that might be involved. And it kind of felt like, like when you give your kid busy work to kind of keep them out of your hair, let's give them something to get out there and get after and look for, and they'll back off all this other stuff. But we've seen how seriously they're taking the surveillance. Like, they went and shut down that gas station for hours and took 8 hours of footage, and they expanded the search out, like, what was it, 24 miles, 30 miles, something like that. And we're following a specific route, trying to find evidence and patterns of this vehicle. And they showed us where the original we haven't seen the original footage, but we saw where it came from. And so I don't think it's a red herring, because they are still adamant that they need information about that car, that the occupant or occupants could have valuable information to the investigation. Maybe they saw something and don't even realize it. The longer it goes and they don't find it is troubling, because I would think anybody in that area that had that kind of car would likely have already called and said, hey, I have this kind of car, you know, I was there, I wasn't there, whatever, and we'd be moving on from it, but we're not. And they said there were 22,000 registered white Hyundai Elantras, I guess, in that area, whatever geographical area that they're looking at. And I mean, if it was me, I would start with going through names, like anybody from the university, anybody known or associated with the victims, you know, ruling people out that way and seeing if anything comes up, see if you find a hit. But I don't know what they're doing, but they are working their way through that list, and I guess they can cross the one from Eugene, Oregon off of that long list. Okay, so the neighbors. So Jeremy was the neighbor that came out, and he was kind of being, you know, on all the different news shows and doing his thing. And then he started getting harassed and accused of being the killer. He went and volunteered his DNA to the police and basically said he wasn't going to do any more interviews. Seems like he's either deactivated or privated his social media and things like that. I never really suspected Jeremy. I don't know why. A lot of people did, but I just never did. I don't know. He just didn't give me that vibe. And people are harassing everybody. Like the female that owns the Elantra from Colorado, people are even harassing her. Like, why? You know? And can you imagine being this professor? There's so many people on that TikToker's video that really put stock in what she's saying. I can't imagine being that professor or her husband. I don't know if they have kids, but damn. So Jeremy, he just kind of took himself out of the situation. But then you have people like the neighbor Enon Harsh, you know, the stick juggling chef. And, you know, he didn't hear anything. He did hear something. He didn't know him. He brought him wine. You know, he's all over the place. He can't keep his story straight. And there's a lot of red flags with that guy. There's a lot of red flags with that guy. You know, there's a picture out there, like, is this him at the food truck and what have you. But what bugs me about this guy is, you know, he went on Reddit and he put on this long, like, almost like a manifesto, like his life story, a bunch of stuff that nobody needed or wanted to know. I mean, it's long. It's like reading a book. And he was kind of like, it was almost like a really long advertisement for, I don't know if he has it or he's going to start it, a YouTube channel. And I guess he's going to give stick juggling, fire juggling, whatever, lessons. It's like self-promotion or something. And then I saw yesterday, I believe, that he had made this post about, yeah, I also drive a Hyundai Elantra and I have a K-bar knife stuck up my butthole. What? Like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Like, this isn't funny. It's not a joke. I don't know what to think about him. I don't know. Could it be him? Sure. I don't know. But, you know, people like Jeremy, that they're trying to give information, they're trying to help, they get accused and they back away and they're like, I'm out. I respect that. This guy, he's had more than his 15 minutes and it's time to step away. You know, he's getting on all these platforms, talking, writing, whatever, wanting to give us juggling lessons and just making a mockery out of it and himself. And I don't like that at all. Now, does that mean he's a killer? No. It makes him kind of a disgusting person, but doesn't necessarily make him a killer. But there are a lot of red flags there. Adam. So, in the video where we see Kaylee and Maddie walking, and it looks like Jack Showalter walking with them, hoodie guy, and we hear Kaylee ask Maddie, what did you tell Adam? And she kind of sounds upset, but they were drinking, so maybe it was just that. But she's like, Maddie, what did you tell Adam? And Maddie's just like, oh, I told Adam everything. So that was the big thing. Who's Adam? Who's Adam? And it turns out Adam is Jack D's roommate and also a bartender at the Corner Club where they had been. And they're friends. And Kaylee's parents said, you know, no, it's nothing. We knew about this video. And Adam, like, nah, it's insignificant, basically. And my initial thing wasn't like, ooh, Adam's a suspect. A lot of people were like, ooh, today's suspect of the day is Adam. I didn't care as much about like who Adam was as much as what is everything. What did she tell him? And then knowing that he is or was Jack's roommate, it makes me wonder, like, what did Maddie tell him that Kaylee would have been concerned, like, enough to ask, you know, what did you tell Adam? Was it something that she didn't necessarily want Jack to know? And then is that why they were calling him that night, to kind of like explain, like, hey, Maddie said such and such to Adam, but this is really what's going on, kind of thing. I don't know, but I am curious to know what everything is. I mean, it may not even be important. So the rabbit holes, we went down quite a few on my video, and they keep popping up every day, more and more and more. They're multiplying, and I think it's because we know a lot less, or we don't know more than what we do know. Does that make sense? Yeah, we know very little, and there's a ton that we don't know and we want to know, and we're trying to fill in those holes, those blank spaces, with our theories and speculation, which is fine, but we have to be reasonable about it, right? So a lot of the internet speculation, I don't mind speculating, we do it here, but sometimes people take that internet speculation as fact. And if there's no basis for it, we always say, you know, allegedly, or this is all speculation, or possibly, maybe, whatever. You know, you can't come out and say, like the TickTock lady, you can't present your theory like it's fact unless you can back it up, unless you have a basis for it. And law enforcement has given a statistic that, like, in any, not just this one, but any given investigation, the public knows maybe 5 to 10% of what they know at any given time. So we don't know a lot, right? But they know so much more than us, and we have to believe that. We have to believe that. They're not going to put everything out there. They can't put everything out there, and we've talked about why. But the most important thing that we need to do here is remember, these were real people. 4 real people who were really murdered, brutally murdered. That really happened. And there is really a killer out there who could really do this again. And those 4 very real victims left behind very real loved ones who are going through very real, unimaginable grief. And as much as we might like to theorize and speculate, just remember, this is real. It really happened. It's really affecting people, and they're really not coming back. And it's not a movie. It's not a crime show. Always keep it in perspective. And when you hear something, it's okay to think, hey, that could be it. That makes sense. But just be mindful of when you're listening to things until you can vet it and really dig into it yourself. Kind of take it with a grain of salt. You know, don't just jump on a bandwagon because it's the hot suspect or theory of the moment. Just keep it in perspective and always be respectful of these victims and their families and what they're going through. And conduct yourselves in a way that if a family member would happen to be listening to you, reading what you've written, seeing what you're putting out there, how would that make them feel? I think it's kind of a good guideline to go by. So, some of what we don't know, that I would like to know, that I think would be helpful, but will not know for maybe ever, but at least not now. We still don't know what the breakup was like between Kaylee and Jack D. Now, we've heard it was amicable, that Kaylee needed a break. We know she was getting ready to go start her life in Texas. Sorry. But were her, Jack, seeing other people? You know, there's a lot we don't know. Was it amicable? You know, early on, her mom had said they were going to get back together. Well, how do we know that? You know, let's see. What was the relationship between Kaylee, Maddie, and Jack S? So we know they were neighbors. Were they friendly? You know, did they get along? Did he hang out at their house? Why did he feel so protective of them that night? Like, what was that relationship that made him feel like he needed to look out for these girls? And then what made him drive 5 hours to Boise immediately after leaving the food truck? I would really like to know that. Why did Kaylee and Maddie call Jack 10 times? Now, initially I had said that, you know, it could have been one of those things that her sister, Kaylee's sister, said she was a, like, power caller, that she would just call you over and over and over for nothing, like to ask you, like, what she should have for breakfast or something, you know? She just keep calling till you answered. And I could have seen it like Kaylee's calling Jack for whatever reason, and she calls 6 times and he doesn't answer. And she's like, he's not answering for me, Maddie. You call him, see if he'll pick up for you. So she tries 3 times and he doesn't. And then Kaylee calls him back again. And then we know that she sent him a text that said, you know, we share a dog, just, you know, get back to me or come over or something. Did they leave any voicemails? And like I said, what was the point of calling? Did it have something to do with Murphy? And did Jack call back the next morning or go over there to check on them? We don't know. Who was called to come over before 911 was called? So we know the surviving roommates said that they called friends over because they thought somebody was passed out upstairs. I've heard that Ethan's brother Hunter was there. Other guys from Sig Chi across the street had come over. Probably neighbors from across the street or next door were there, but we don't know who they called first, and we don't know who was there when law enforcement showed up. And that would all be interesting to know, because we know that sometimes killers will insert themselves in a situation. Could the killer have been there? We don't know. Why aren't Dylan and Bethany communicating with the families? That one bothers me. Bothers me a lot. I would think that they would want to talk to them. Maybe not. Maybe they were told by police not to contact the family. I don't know. Do they have information that Ellie doesn't want the families to have yet? I don't know. But I think it's weird that they aren't really communicating with the victims' families. Be interesting to know why. Were Xana and Ethan at Sig Chi from 8 to 9, or were they there until 1:45? The timeline kind of changed according to law enforcement, but we still really don't know. Sig Chi doesn't have cameras, but you can't tell me somebody wasn't on social media taking pictures, Snapchat, TickTock, something. So we still have this. We know so much about Maddie and Kaylee's night, but we don't know a lot about Xana and Ethan still. And I'd like to know more. What happened at the party is still my big question. We've heard there was a fight. Was there a fight? What was it about? Who did it involve? Things like that. Did the roommates, Dylan and Bethany, they came home allegedly around 1. Did they have company with them, like a boyfriend or just friends, like hanging out with them? We don't know. We haven't heard. And then I've asked this in previous videos, did they interact with each other when everybody came home? Like when Maddie and Kaylee came in with their food, did they just go straight upstairs? Did they sit in the kitchen and eat? Were Dylan and Bethany in their rooms? Were they in the living room? Did they all talk, like what they did that night? That kind of thing. When Xana and Ethan came home, did they talk to Kaylee and Maddie? Or Dylan and Bethany? Did they all hang out for a while? I doubt they just walked in the door and everybody immediately went to their rooms. But we don't know. Did Dylan and Bethany hear anything? And I don't mean necessarily the murders, but did they hear like somebody show up? Did they hear the door? Did they hear a car? Anything unusual? A thump? Anything that seemed off? We don't know that. Why did Kaylee's dad say that he noticed a change in the victim's behavior before the murders? What does that mean? Who changed? How did they change? What was significant about that? What, that he brought that up? And did anybody else notice it? Who was Kaylee texting at the food truck? She was on her phone constantly. And I think it was more than just getting their private ride home from the food truck. She was texting constantly. Who was she texting? And what did those messages say? Let me get a drink real quick. Throat is killing me. So the Moscow Police Department Chief James Fry came out and said, we need to be vigilant. We need to pay attention because we are not sure exactly where the individual is. And he said individual, not individual or individuals. That may not be significant, but have they determined it is only one person? And if they know who, why are they having such a hard time locating them? I don't know. They've also, they've said the people that were cleared, some of them have been re-interviewed, and that they can all be called back in at any time if the evidence leads them in that direction. So cleared is a relative term, I feel like. Just because they're cleared today doesn't mean they're going to be cleared tomorrow. They have said that results are coming in from the lab, and we saw a few investigators go back to the house, and they had a case with them that appears to me to be an evidence collection kit. So did they forget something the first time around, or did they find something on the test that they wanted to go back and get another sample to check against it? I don't know. I'm hoping it's a good sign. Adam, apparently, he is cooperating with law enforcement. Jeremy, like I said, he gave his DNA. We've got Enon, who red flags all over the place, and he's never been put on the cleared list. Joe V from the food truck, the tan hat guy, the heavyset guy, a lot of people have suspicions about him, and he's never specifically been cleared. He very well could be... Sorry, the dogs just came in. The male in the grub truck video. Maybe it's Joe V and not Jack S that's been cleared. We don't know, because they weren't specific, right? Jack K, the Venmo guy that Ethan paid, and then his sister had the 3:30 a.m. payment. He's never been put on the cleared list, even though a lot of people suspected him as well. David Loach and David Barry, the Sig Kai brothers that apparently had a fight with Xana and Ethan that night. Nothing's been said about them. And the person that I introduced you to with the connections with Loach and Barry and Garden City and all of that, the Hyundai, Carter Kolpicki, he's never even been mentioned. So, just to kind of start wrapping it up, we need to everybody that we look at that we think, could they be a suspect? We need to think about means, motive, and opportunity. Did they have the means to do it? Would they have had the opportunity to do it? And mostly, what would the motive have been? And Ken Maines said that motives normally fall into the categories of greed, sex, and revenge. I still don't feel like it's greed, because there was nothing stolen that we're aware of. But the others, possibly, so when you're looking at someone, eyeing them as a suspect, ask yourself, what would have motivated them sexually or in a revenge type way. And when we look at these people, we need to ask ourselves, have they recently been through a traumatic event? Not necessarily traumatic, like a death in the family, although that could definitely be traumatic, or a divorce, or but losing a job, getting kicked out of school, getting kicked out of a frat, losing a scholarship, losing your financial aid, anything, it really depends on a person, how traumatic a particular event's going to be. But anyone that you're looking at as the suspect, look at what has happened recently in their life that could have triggered them in some way. Rejection, real or imagined, we've talked about that a lot. That was somebody feeling rejected or ignored or unseen by one or all of these people? Were they rejected really rejected, like turned down in some way for something? Or do they just feel rejected, left out, slighted in some way by these people? And then, of course, stalker or fixation. You know, we don't know if Kaylee had a stalker or not. We really don't know. And any of them, including Ethan, could have had a stalker. Or just someone fixated on them. Like the girls that were waitresses. You know, a customer, a regular, somebody that worked in the area, somebody that worked with them. Maybe they got fixated on them and created this world in their mind where they were going to be together, and when that wasn't happening, they snapped. You know, anything like that. You know, there's a lot of things to consider when we look, and when we went down our rabbit holes, we kind of did that. Like, not just say, oh, this person. We talked about why, like what was going on, what could have led up to this, right? So we need to do that with everybody before, you know, we start just really going after somebody. And I know I don't have to tell you, but you don't ever go real life on these people. Even if you know their names, if you want to like lurk on their social media and see what they're up to, fine. But don't message them. Don't try to contact them. Don't try to see them in person or harass them in any kind of way. You know, it's not okay. And everyone in this situation, even the ones that we suspect the most, that we feel like, how could they not be involved, right? They're innocent until proven guilty. And the police are still saying they don't have a suspect. So, you know, we can speculate and we can theorize, but we don't have enough information yet, I'm afraid. So I'm going to start wrapping this up. I am getting really tired and my voice is about to go, I think. But they really still need your tips. They feel like you could have the one small piece of information they need to put this puzzle together. So if you know anything, if you think you know anything, if you suspect somebody, if you've seen like a change in behavior, anything like that in somebody, call it in so it can be looked into. And then keep your eyes out for that Hyundai Elantra because they still want information about that. So, like I said earlier, I hope everybody is safe and warm wherever you're at. You know, it's good snuggle weather with your significant other, your pets, whatever, even if it's just with a cozy blanket and a good book, or watch a Christmas movie, but just snuggle up and stay warm and stay safe and get ready for a Merry Christmas. I don't know if I'll be on tomorrow because I have a football game and it's Christmas Eve, but if I don't see you, I will be uploading my Christmas video of my pets and all of you and your Christmas sweaters and your pets. So look for that tomorrow or the next day. And all right, I think that's it. Please give this a thumbs up, share it, and if you're not already subscribed, subscribe. It's free and it means the world to me. We really want to grow the channel so we can reach more people. Tell your friends to come over and say hi and subscribe. And join the Steve Squad if you're so inclined. Like I said, you can leave super thanks, PayPal, CashApp, Venmo if you want, but it's not ever required. Hi, Shiloh. And as always, I will see you all in the next one.